We're halfway through the 24-25 WSL campaign, so we're using this winter break to review it. In this video, we grade every club season so far, assessing whether they've met their pre-season expectations and what has gone wrong for certain clubs. We also discuss whether Chelsea's season has been perfect so far and why it could be argued that Man United have had a better season than Manchester City. This is our mid-season review. Alright, it's mid-season ratings time. We're going to be looking at every WSL club and giving them a grade like we're school teachers, Harry. From A down to E or F, but I can't imagine there's any Fs.
No.
Everyone's just sort of done okay or really good this season.
Yeah, I like doing this because we do this now, guys, had a terrible season, and we look back on it in 6 months and realise how wrong we were because they've managed to turn it around.
Well, we've only had 10 games. I think it was only 5 games ago that we did this before.
Yes.
So people may still remember the video. If you haven't, go back and watch it. See what we gave all the clubs then, and then see what we give them now. See if it's changed. I have no recollection of what we gave anyone. I think we gave Arsenal an E, though. And so let's start with Arsenal, because it's definitely turned around, hasn't it?
Yeah, very much. And hats off to René Slagers for doing a really good job steering that ship in the right direction. That ship was sinking very quickly.
I think it was sunk.
It was sunk.
It was Titanic, really.
It was down. Slagers revived it, and they've been absolutely brilliant. You've got top players on top form. The fans are now back behind the club. It's a brilliant, the Emirates is bouncing once again. The players are playing some really good football on the pitch. You see no more errors. The players who were out of form have found their golden touch. Alessia Russo, especially for me, Russo, Marnham, Ford, all under Slagers have been superb, and I think that's been absolutely huge, and they've done really well, and it's been a massive part of it. Shockingly, when you have good players and they play well, you fly back up the league, and that's what they've done.
The feel-good factor's back for Arsenal. I mean, they've won every game bar one under René Slagers, which was, of course, the draw with Manchester United that they should never have drawn. They should have won that game by an absolute landslide. But Mark Skinner has his ways sometimes, and I think that'll be a source of frustration. I still think as well there are questions because they've not played Chelsea, they've not played Manchester City. They will get the delight of playing both of those clubs in the next few weeks because they play Chelsea at the end of January, City the week after, first weekend of February. So we're going to get to see those games, those big tests soon. But I think looking at it right now, really positive on Slagers, but not proven.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a huge improvement. The thing you've got to consider with Arsenal, though, is that you can't just say, well, Slagers done really well, so A star. As a whole, Arsenal's season, has it been a success or a failure? You've also then got to factor in the period under Jonas Adeva. You've got to consider those pre-season expectations. Would they have wanted to be in the title race this season? Would they want to be in a position where they're 7 points off Chelsea? So you've got to factor those in. But it is, of course, with that caveat, if they did sack the manager, they've brought in René Slagers, who's done fantastic.
B.
A B.
I'm
quite happy with that.
They're 1 point off second. And if they beat Manchester City in February, they are suddenly they are the best team in the league bar Chelsea, and that is, I think, if you told Arsenal you'll be second come February this season, they would have taken that after the first 5 games.
Yeah, I thought you'd be pining for an A, and I was going to pull you down to a B, but I think B is I think that's a nice neutral rate. They've not been, A star, which is hitting your targets or exceeding your targets really, but they've been just about where you'd expect them to be. Little bit off where the dream would be. Yeah. But I think it's a good start season. They can definitely build on that.
Yeah, definitely.
And let's move on then to our next club, Aston Villa. Aston Villa somehow find themselves 7th. Best
Part of their season was Sean Goater being an interim manager.
Yeah.
That's a caretaker manager.
Build him a statue.
Yeah, really bad. And I think we weren't too harsh on them because they'd played nice football under the
This
paw.
is a confusing thing because they played really well against Chelsea and then terrible against everyone else, really, apart from Man City. They played really well against Chelsea and Man City, deserved something from those 2 games and got nothing, and then were really rubbish in every other game. And then obviously DePaul, there was a whole incident, he got sacked, in came Sean Goater, and they've won 2 games of football.
Sean Goater's army. But yeah, and that's the thing, I think that people say, well, they're 7th, and that isn't too bad. But let's be honest, if Sean Goater hadn't masterclassed a win against West Ham, suddenly they could be 11th.
Well, I think anyone from 6th down could be relegated.
Yeah, and I don't think I mean, Villa, even that Villa Tottenham game, how did Villa not win that football match?
Yeah.
That's incredible. But yeah, for Villa, really poor. When they bought in an exciting manager who plays top quality football. They brought in some big signings, and it just didn't work out. And now they've ended up going back to experienced players and Sean Goater's at the wheel, it's not where they want to be.
That's the issue for me. I think it was an exciting appointment, but it didn't fit with what the squad wanted. And I think there was a clear clash there. That's then resulted in the disagreement. That then resulted in Deport's sacking. In terms of a rating, it's not been catastrophic because they are still mid-table. There is still something they can build from. I'd be looking at a D, I think.
I was going to say C, just their 7th. Because again, yes, it's tight, but at the end of the day, they are 3 points ahead of those teams below them. And if they
had a Palace, which is the crucial one at the moment.
And if they finish 7th in the league, that's not a terrible season when we consider what's already happened.
Yeah, and obviously it's worth saying, if Leicester and Palace go and win the first game in January, Villa are suddenly a point off the relegation zone. So that is how topsy-turvy it can be at the moment in the WSL because it is so tight. But I think Villa, I think a C is fine. I think, they've been fairly competitive, but it's not been a great start to the season. No. I think a C is fitting. On to our next club then, which is, of course, Brighton.
Yes.
Now, I think we probably gave Brighton an A or an A star, didn't we?
We did.
Has that changed in the last few weeks? Obviously, in that period, they've drawn with Tottenham, they've lost to Chelsea, they've got tanked by Arsenal. It does feel that when they've now been... The litmus test has seen them drop down a little bit more.
We gave them an A star in there because they were exceeding expectations tenfold. For me, they're still exceeding. They're in 5th, and I don't think they're up in the A star. They've been absolutely brilliant because, as you say, they were terrible against Arsenal, and I think they were unfortunate against Chelsea. The Tottenham game was a really weird one where for some reason Tottenham did good defending for once, so that was a rarity. Overall for Brighton, they are, for me, they're probably higher than they anticipated to be, and that is pretty huge. For me, they're on that line of exceeding/meeting expectations. They're not like, oh my god, we are in dreamland, we're in the top 3 anymore, but it's still... we are doing very well.
Well, that's the thing. While it has been slightly lower in the last few weeks, it's still an A. They're still 5th in the WSL. Let's not go mental here. Many people would have said Brighton will be in the relegation or in the relegation fight this season. They have pulled themselves out of that. They've been very good, but they're not quite in that dreamland aspect anymore.
The thing to look at for Brighton is because of where they were, people will look at it and go, well, they're 4 points off the top 4 now. But I think the way if you are Brighton in that boardroom, you look at it as you're 6 points clear of 6th. And that is the bigger thing for Brighton right now, is that they're in a really comfortable position in that 5th place. They're kind of they're the team that are the furthest off anyone. They're in a really nice position. They're kind of fighting nobody.
They're just chilling.
Yeah,
they had a good start and they can ride that out to the end of the season. For me though, they can't let standards slip because if they do beat Liverpool on the first game back on Friday the 17th, if they do go and get a result against Manchester United at the end of January, they could jump United in that period. They could jump Arsenal because Arsenal play Chelsea. Yeah. They could jump City if United are beating City. So there is an opportunity there that Brighton could suddenly be in that conversation again. So they can't afford themselves to sort of just relax. They then have a February where they play Crystal Palace, West Ham, then Chelsea, admittedly, at the start of March. But they could, first 4 games of the new year, they could win all of those. They could at least be very competitive in all of those. Yeah. Suddenly, they've put themselves in a really, really strong position.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that there are opportunities. Brighton can't let themselves slip off. Definitely an A, at least for me. Yeah. So decent. And let's move on to our next club, which is Chelsea. Chelsea have been really good. They have not lost a game. They dropped 2 points to Leicester, and I think they'll be frustrated by that. But it has still been a really, really good season, hasn't it? It's really difficult to give them... The problem is for Chelsea, the expectation is that they will win the league. So the only way you can get an A star, really, is by not losing a game. But the game they dropped points in was Leicester. I think that does have a bearing on the results.
It does slightly. They were always going to drop points at some point. For me, it's still very much an A. They're still very, very good. They're unbeaten. They've been absolutely incredible.
They're top of the league.
For the people that are like panicking and throwing their toys out the pram because Chelsea lost to Leicester.
Drew with Leicester,
You're absurd. People saying sell this, that, and the other. Sack bomb. What on earth? Just no. Chelsea have been absolutely
I think most
incredible.
rational people would say Chelsea had a fantastic start to the season. 6 points clear of Manchester City.
Absolutely ridiculous.
They won their Champions League group. Everything's gone well. They won every game in the Champions League group stage. It's been a very good start to the season. They've lost that perfect record, obviously, with that draw to Leicester. But it was going to slip at some point. The fact they're still invincible at the moment in every competition.
Unbelievable.
It's been a frankly absurd start to the season. So I think I'm really trying not to give it an A star here.
I think it's an A. It's an A.
I'm happy to.
A star if they'd won 10 of 10 and they were sat there on 30 points in the league.
They literally couldn't have done anything more. Yeah. But I think an A is fitting for the position they're in. 6 points clear. There is still a lot of work to do, but they're in a very good position now in the WSL. So I think they'll be very pleased with their starts this season. Let's flip the table upside down and go right to the bottom. Crystal Palace. 5 points from 10 games. They're bottom of the league, obviously, now. A point off Leicester. So it's not all doom and gloom. A win would see them rise up to 10th. So they're still in the conversation. Is this a better or worse position than you thought Palace would be in at the start of the season? That's what you've got to bear in mind.
And that's the thing. This is why, because if you look at it from the start of the season, for me, it's probably slightly better. They're only a point off Leicester and they're still in that fight. But when you also...
They're 4 points off 7th.
That is insane. But when you compare it to the review we did after the first couple games, they came into that just off the back of that huge win away at Leicester, and after that things were looking so rosy, and that we just haven't seen that from Palace since, and they've been really they should have so many more points. They should have won that West Ham game. That's the big one for me. They should have beaten Aston Villa. There were 2 games there where they led in both of those matches and went on to lose the game 3-2.
Well, this is the issue, isn't it? Is that they are in these positions against Everton, Villa, and West Ham. They led in all 3 of those games, and they took 1 point from 3, and that's the difference between staying in the league and not. Now, January could be huge, and they could have some huge players, but that is really damning for me because yes, they've taken some decent points this season. I mean, a point away at Liverpool's fantastic. A win away at Leicester, they'll be really crucial come the end of the season. But they're in the WSL now, and the run where they had Everton, Palace, Everton, Villa, West Ham, that had to be some big points there. And they only took 1 from 3. Times it can still change, but I think they'll be frustrated they've not made more of what could have been a really good attempt at staying up.
Yeah, I'd give it a C. They're still in the fight, but based on the league position, like we did with Villa, you have to. Yes, it's tight, but you still have to take the position into account. They are bottom. They've got work to do. It's a C for me.
I would push for a D, but I'll settle for a C.
C minus.
C minus. There we go. Because I don't think you can put them on the same place as Aston Villa. I know the expectation was different for those sides coming into the season. But Aston Villa are 7th in the league. They are 4 points ahead of Crystal Palace. But expectations are a huge thing. The fact that Palace don't have the budget to compete in this division, have looked fairly competitive in the games that they have played, I think there'll be a bit of frustration. But there have been some really damning results as well. 7-0 to Chelsea is a huge loss. They got tanked by Tottenham on the opening day. Results like that have to be factored in, and they have been absolutely smacked about when they played those kind of games. I think it's been a difficult start to the season. But there have been some really real positive moments. They've got Arsenal on their return, which could be another tough one. But they've just got to start picking up results against teams that aren't very good because they haven't done that this season. And now they're going to a run of Arsenal, Tottenham, Brighton, United, Liverpool. And there's a very good chance that they lose all 5 of those. And then we're into March. And suddenly, despite the fact that they would go into a run of Villa and Everton and the fact that at the end of the season they play West Ham and Leicester, it could be all done by then. And that is an issue. Palace haven't picked up points this season, haven't got those results when they needed to. Suddenly they're in a position where it's difficult. They could be down before they get really an opportunity to fight back now. So, for me, it'll be interesting to see what happens in January, but I think it is worrying now for Palace.
Yeah, definitely. Agreed.
Let's move on to our next side then, Everton.
Yes. Wow.
2 weeks ago, I'd have told you Everton are going down, but they beat Liverpool. And
incredible.
At the end of November, I mean, there was a lot to thank the referee for that day. And then they beat Manchester City at the end of December.
When we did this after the first couple of games, they had a terrible start of the season. They were bottom of the league, looked horrendous.
They couldn't score a goal if they paid the goalkeeper to jump out the way. That was the problem for Everton.
And suddenly,
wow,
we're sat here 10 games into the season. They've beaten Manchester City. They've beaten rivals Liverpool. They've drawn to Arsenal. They've bought in a striker for January, and Brian Sorensen's flying. He's flying. He is levitating on the sideline because Everton, what a recovery! And suddenly they're going into the new year, and it's like, well, where are they going to finish? Because for me, at the moment, they look better than Villa. They look better than Tottenham.
Liverpool don't have any players, so they'll probably be ahead of them at some point.
They'll have to fold eventually because they have 7 people, including Matt Beard in goal. But yeah, Everton, incredible. Absolutely. I mean, I know again it's still tight, and they're only 3 points ahead of Palace. But at the end of the day, they're 3 points ahead of Palace. But you look at it, they're only a handful of points off 6th in the league. If they would have finished top half after the start of the season they had, Brian Saunders has to get knighted by Merseyside or whatever. I don't know what they do over there.
Brian Sorensen of Merseyside.
Not of Britain. He gets knighted by the. Yeah, he deserves something because that would be an incredible achievement. Hats off to Sorensen. Hats off to Everton.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they've signed a striker, they don't have to play catch it's nice anymore. The City game, they probably could have scored about 5 if Tony Payne didn't just keep running around the ball. They just, they need to score. They need to score more goals. But big results recently. They come back to Villa and West Ham and Leicester. That's a fantastic run to start the year. 3 wins, and suddenly they're competing with Brighton.
Okay, let's calm down.
Whoa,
I am happy to go for a good, solid B.
Yeah, I'll put them up there right now. I think the start of the season was horrible, but they've picked up results and they needed to. And I think, compared to expectations, compared to the quality in the squad, they're overperforming that.
Yeah. And
that's got to be credited. I think at 9th position is very decent, 9 points as well. As I say, they're 2 points off 6th at the moment. They are only now 8 points off of 5th. It's not impossible we see the top half, which it would be frankly absurd given how poor they looked in the first few game weeks. So, huge turnaround for Everton, and I think they deserve credit for that. And let's move on then to Leicester. I think Leicester, you've got to caveat with the fact they actually just don't have a striker.
They can't score
at
the
moment.
It's impossible.
Nomi Mouchon got injured, Yuta Rantala got injured, and it's been really difficult. But what a huge result they picked up against Chelsea. Sorry.
Yeah, brilliant. And this thing, Leicester defensively look really solid, and that's exactly what they've done. And the Chelsea game proves where if they get a goal, they can defend it. The problem is being getting goals, and then they end up losing games because they'll concede late on and then they'll end up losing. Whereas the Chelsea game, they'd already got that goal, so when they conceded 1 after defending heroically, they got a point from the game.
They're a really good defensive side, Leicester, and it's no surprise they've got some brilliant players in there. I think Ruben Mace, top defensive midfielder, as Mita Ale. I mean, again, another player I think is real quality. They've got some really good defenders. I think Howard, Keys, Tebow all had good seasons so far. So, there's a real good feel factor again about Leicester. Just add some goals really, and I think they're in a really strong position. But it is worth saying they're only a point off relegation zone. They are 2 points now off of West Ham, 3 points off Everton, Liverpool, and Villa. They are just not picking up those results. But a big point against Chelsea definitely changes, I think, how a lot of people view them. Yeah, I think they would have expected to be tanks, especially after the City result was 4-0.
Yeah, very much so. For me, I think it's a C. They're not having a great season. They're not above expectations, but it's not a dire situation. They have shown that they can pick up points against some of the best teams in the league. And once Yuta Rantala's back, if they bring in some attacking reinforcements, the goals will start to flow again, and suddenly they could put together a really nice run of games.
Yeah, they did fall short of my preseason expectations. I think they put them like 6th or something.
Yeah, that's on you.
I believe too much in the Mikel effect, so that one is on me. I will take that one. But yeah, I think I'd be happy with a C, very middle of the road. It's not been diabolical.
No.
But there are also still some concerns. So definitely not good, but it's been an okay season. They need a striker. There have been those mitigating circumstances. So, I don't think they've had a bad season. They just need to sign some players up front. Then they'll be in a good position. And let's move on to Liverpool. Now, Liverpool, before we talk anything, you have to caveat with the fact that everyone's been injured. Yeah. Literally everybody has been injured for them. That's been a real problem.
Yeah. I feel for Matt Beard. Even he's been ill at some point this season.
Yeah, and suspended for the FA Cup game at the start of Jan.
I think, and they already, yes, they'll get some players back in the new year, but they're already going into their first game in 2025 without their manager on the touchline and with still some players out. And it's a really tough situation. They have to reinforce in January. It is as simple as that for Liverpool. Players coming back will be absolutely key. but the problem is they cannot afford to rush them back because they will only end up injured again. You have to manage minutes if you're Matt Beard or whoever's going to take the team in his absence. And to be fair, it'll be the same two people. I apologise, I can't remember their names, but the same pair that took the Manchester City game that they nearly went on to win without Matt Beard being there. So maybe they'll get a huge result in the FA Cup against West Ham. And an FA Cup run could be what you need to just get A, money, B, morale, C, form. It's a really good place to start.
It is more games.
It is, and Matt Beard doesn't like more games, as he's made that very clear.
The problem is FSG just are refusing to
give him
invest in the club at all. It's horrible to see. There are some bad owners. I think they're right up there for the WSL clubs because what more can Liverpool women do? They're not getting the investment from the top. It's really difficult, therefore, to compete. When you consider Chelsea, for example, have there's clear investment from Clearlake Capital and Todd Bowley, the consortium there. There's a clear drive to be the best women's side. You look at the Liverpool side, and they're working with scraps.
Yeah, but even the lower side, Brighton. Brighton went out and invested in a really good manager, put a load of money into the club to get big players, and look at they're reaping the rewards now. And Crystal Palace are another one where they invested massively and they've climbed the ranks and got to the WSL. Liverpool, Matt Beard's being fought because of the crisis of injuries and because of the lack of investment. I mean, it's a brilliant. Don't get me wrong. For 17-year-old Shaw, it's a huge opportunity for her, but it's not the way that she would want to come about it, and it's not the way Matt Beard would have wanted to give it to her. Matt Beard would have never planned on just throwing Zara Shaw into the first team at 17 years old, having to start 3 games in a row because they simply have no other midfielders to put there.
Yeah, it's a problem, and the issue is as you say, the investment is coming from other clubs. And if Liverpool don't invest, they're going to find themselves relegated. Yeah. Because eventually these clubs coming through are going to overtake them. You look at the money being thrown around the Championship now. London City Lionesses have bought everyone, and it's still not working. But they are putting a lot of money about, and that money is going to spread throughout the pyramid. So the issue now for Liverpool is that they're not putting money in, and the clubs below them are getting more investment. They are getting richer. The clubs in the WSL are getting more investment. They are signing more and more foreign talent. Liverpool working with scraps at the moment, and they've done so well too, because some of the signs they've pulled off despite having such little investment is fantastic. Olivia Smith this summer, fantastic bit of business. Roman Haug the summer before, they're huge statement signings, and when you see those you think, oh, maybe there's going to be investment now, and there just isn't investment. And that's the problem. FSG have got to pull the thing, and they've got to pull the money out of the pocket, give Liverpool women some investment.
On their day, the Liverpool strongest 11 can take the game to any team in the WSL. Over the last 2 seasons, they have proved that with brilliant results. For me, the fact we're at their 8th, it is too low, but they're working with what they've got. I think, for me it would be a D, but the fact that they literally have nothing to work with.
Well, right now out injured, they've got Haug, Hobinger, who are arguably their 2 best players. Yeah. They've had no right wing back since about
Parry's out, Laws
October.
Out.
Rachel Laws, their starting goalkeeper, has been injured for a few months now. It's been really difficult. Cherry Holland has missed games this season. We've never seen Holland get injured. No. So I think there are some real issues there, and that it's frustrating for Liverpool because I think that there are some quality players in that squad, but the problem is they're going to leave because the squad just isn't competitive. So why would they stay? So it's a tough one. I think for me it's another C, and it's really boring, but it's not been a good season for Liverpool. But you can't really give them a D when they have had no players.
We'll throw an E in there in a minute to make it interesting.
Will we?
I don't know who we're going to go. We'll see. Who's up next?
Well, next up is Manchester City.
Nah, nothing.
That was pretty poor. I mean, how do you assess City's season? Because 22 points from 10 games. They've only dropped points in 3 matches. I think bar the Everton game, neither of, a loss to Chelsea and a draw with Arsenal is not embarrassing. No. It's how much you factor in that Everton game. It's how much you factor in what the expectation would have been this season. Is 6 points off Chelsea damning? Because they are still in the title fight, but if the start of the season, your expectation is they could compete for the title, suddenly, if you view it from that lens, it's not been a great season because have they competed for the title? Not really.
Yeah, I think they haven't got an injury crisis for me, but they with No Shaw, Hemp, Greenwood, Alexandri's been out. I do. There are some issues. Amidamar.
But then I would criticise Gareth Taylor for that because they had some money in the summer and they bought another goalkeeper. And I know, Roebuck was leaving, but they probably could have got a cheaper goalkeeper that would be happy to play backup. And I don't think Amashita's been a huge improvement.
No.
For Gino, did they really need her? Could he have just not smoothed things over with Chloe Kelly?
Well, that's it, yeah. That's
no idea. What happened? Centre-back they could have invested in instead. That they were unlucky because Risa Shimizu did immediately do her ACL, which was a problem. Naomi Lazell has then got injured in her first game. So they have been unlucky in that regard. But it's certainly not an injury crisis. Miedemare out injured as well, of course.
Yeah,
what happened? All their new signings have.
There's a lot of injuries, but the difference is they had the money in the summer, and now they got the money in January to go and replace them. But they also have the players. Yes, they had to shoot. People go, well, they had to shoot on Park onto the right hand side because they ran out of wingers. No, they didn't. Gareth Taylor chose to do that because he doesn't like Chloe Kelly. That's his own fault. Murphy's come in, and Murphy's done a very, very good job to replace them. I think. City, it's not been bad at all, to be completely honest, apart from the Everton game. If they'd won the Everton game, we'd be sat here going, they've only lost to Chelsea, and that's not a bad season at all, and they'd only be 3 points, off Chelsea.
Really good.
It's one of those, now they've started playing Kiara Keating and not forcing Yamashita into the team. They've put together a really good run. They come back to a huge game against Manchester United.
And then another huge game against Manchester United.
Yes.
We get to watch that on a Sunday and then on a Wednesday.
Well, forget about it. Forgot about Ipswich in there. What a massive game that.
That is true.
But again, this is where I don't know. But that Ipswich game, if we come back and I see Hasegawa playing and Alexandri, I'm gonna have questions. No offense to Ipswich Town, but for me, you throw Pryor, you throw Murphy in there.
Surely.
You just throw
Cody
anyone.
Thomas. Laura Coombs has to play defensive midfield.
Yeah. And this is my problem with Gareth Taylor, is that if I see the big guns rolled out for Ipswich, then I don't feel for him, because why are you not resting? You've got the opportunities to rest. Take them.
I think they've not done that this season. You look at the Champions League games, Hasegawa played SK and St Paulton.
Why was Khadija Shaw starting?
I think she played.
Hammerby.
Hasegawa and Shaw played Hammerby. I know you don't want to underestimate opponents, but they have had so many injuries this season. And then you look at it, and Hasegawa's played every minute that she could really. I think they may have rested for one game. We've seen Khadija Shaw play so many Champions League games that they could have won with Mary Fowler up front. It's been silly.
They had won 9 points in that Hammer game, for example. Rest in that game. Even if you draw it, you're through second. You'd be through. Even if you lose it, you go, okay, that's all right. We'll play stronger against Bolton and we'll win. Yeah. So for City, I'm gonna say B.
That's a guy played 1,300 minutes, by the way.
Absurd. I'm gonna say B. It's not a terror. They're still second in the league.
They beat Barcelona as well.
They're in all 4 competitions.
Yeah, I think a B is fair.
Yeah.
I think a B is fine. I'd be inclined to push up to an A. But as you said, they did lose to Everton. They did lose their title rivals. They did draw with Arsenal and looked genuinely awful in that game.
And Gareth Taylor's team section is an idiot.
Yeah, they beat Barca with a full strength, but then lost to them without. It's a tough one because, would we be talking differently if Hemp and Khadija Shaw had stayed fit? Because they probably would have beaten Everton.
Yeah,
they probably would have been a bit more competitive against Barcelona, and then suddenly they may have won the Champions League, but they may only be 3 points off Chelsea. So it's difficult, but those injuries feel self-inflicted because they've not rotated the side at all this season, really. So injuries are going to come about as a consequence of that. And it's not like we're talking about a side who have no investment here. This is Manchester City. So I think it's a tough one, but it's difficult to sympathise when they haven't improved. They haven't brought in rotation players in key areas. So, I think a B is fine. So let's move on because we have still got three more clubs to cover. Manchester United. How do you assess Manchester United?
Well done, Mark Skinner. Oh. They are 4th, but they are a point off second in the league.
They've lost one game this season.
They've only lost one game. They've been the best defensive side in the league. They're finally playing some decent football. And I will admit, at the start, I wasn't impressed with the way they played. But in recent games, they've looked really good coming forward. They've been just solid defensively all season. But in attacking areas, they're playing brilliantly. Clinton's been on fire. Turlin's got on the goals. Goughton came in and looked superb. Bee's had a decent season. Heysay, I've
had a lot of fights.
Have you seen the stat that I saw Man United put out the stat saying Heysay's causing problems because she's got the most dribbles attempted in the league? And then I realised that means absolutely nothing. It means she's tried to run. It doesn't mean she's ran. It doesn't mean it's been successful.
Can we see what her success rate is?
I don't know, but I just keep seeing that she just runs.
To be fair, she has the highest successful dribbles in the league, 100%.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Oh no, she's got the most successful dribbles.
Right.
Her dribble success rate is 50%.
Aye, there you
So
go.
she's doing loads of dribbles, and so half of them are going. So she's going to have a lot of successful dribbles because she's doing loads of them. But what's happening is only half of her dribbles are coming off. She's just dribbling a lot.
Just keep dribbling.
Yeah.
Tell AJ to pass the football and you might win some games.
Yeah, she has won a lot of fouls, to be fair. 10.
Yeah, because she throws it like she fights someone, throws them on the floor, goes up
She
and
also committed 16. So, depends which way you want to
But
look at it.
overall for United, really good. They're still in all three competitions that they were in this season. For me, they look really good to go.
I would be impressed if they got knocked out of a Women's League Cup group, to be fair, with Everton, who
You've still got to win the games, though. And they've rotated in them because Skinner's smart. But I think that, for me, they look... I think they're on to retain a trophy again. Maybe not... they might not win the FA Cup, and they're not going to win the WSL, so they might win the Continent.
So, will they win the Subway Cup?
I think they're on to win one of the domestic trophies again. Like they did last season. I think at the moment, I back them to beat that Manchester derby. Prediction now, they'll win it.
Depends if Shaw and Hemp are back.
They'll win it.
And Greenwood.
They're going to win it. I don't think it matters. For me, United are going to win that game.
I think it matters.
I don't.
I think if Khadija Shaw is there, they don't handle her.
I think they do.
Or I think if Lauren Hemp is there, they don't handle her.
They do. I genuinely believe it. And I'm saying that from a point of view where I don't particularly like Mark Skinner.
I quite like him now. I think it's growing on me.
I
know that won't be a popular thing to say, but it's growing on me.
Tactically, he's got better. I think as a person, he's grown. He is showing signs of self-improvement.
I think the way he conducts himself on the sideline isn't brilliant.
No.
And I think when you listen to him talk in interviews and stuff, I do think he comes across quite well. I know people say, "Oh, that's just media-trained PR bullshit," but I do think he comes across quite well in those interviews. Obviously, there are testimonies from players to the contrary. Now, how we could validate those is impossible because unless you're in the dressing room, there's a lot you can say on that. The other thing I would say is, yes, you've seen loads of players who've left then say bad things about him, but none of the players who are there have consolidated that. And I know, obviously, that they don't want to just diss their manager, but if he was genuinely this awful that players are crying in the showers, I don't want to say that they've lied because I don't think that's true, but I do think that those stories have been embellished somewhat. Because if not, you would have more widespread outrage.
Yeah.
If there was a manager bullying players, the other players would step up and say something, I think. We've seen it with Robert De Paul this season with Aston Villa. We've seen it a bit with Jonas Eidevall at Arsenal. We've seen it with other managers in the past. So I think that there are still some questions obviously over his conduct, but I think Skinner is definitely growing as a manager, and I think they have played better this season. Massively better this season.
Should we do that thing where we say United and give him a letter and praise Mark Skinner? I'll go... I think it's an A. They're a point off second. If you'd told a Man United fan you'd be a point off second and still in the hunt for... And two Manchester derbies coming up, I think they'd take that.
Imagine they hadn't just drawn to Aston Villa for no reason, really.
Yeah.
Imagine they'd won that game. Suddenly they'd be second in the league.
And that wasn't even Sean Goater's Aston Villa.
No, that was DePaul's Aston Villa.
Crazy.
Awful. So
yeah.
Imagine United hadn't drawn that. So I think there have been some frustrating results, but they are in a good position. They are, as you say, in all the competitions they could be in. They're in a good position now to fight for Europe, especially considering City have no players left because they keep getting injured. I think it's very good for Manchester United. So yeah, I'm happy to give them an A.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Let's go to Tottenham.
Oh.
How are Tottenham sixth?
What
has happened?
They've had a really nice run, and they've done well because it's been a favourable run. They had a Villa side who were dreadful, an Everton side who, I don't know what happened. They lost to Tottenham in between an incredible win at City and an incredible win at Liverpool, and then Tottenham beat.
Well, it was difficult to take momentum because we had that international break, didn't we?
Yeah.
So they beat Liverpool, internationals, came back, lost to Tottenham, then had City. But obviously City is a bit of an extraneous because City don't have any footballers.
Yeah. I think Tottenham, I don't know what's going on.
Brighton. I don't know how they did that, by the way.
I don't know what's going on.
It's just that Beth England's really good. Actually.
How do you judge a team where you don't know what's going on?
Beth England scored 5 this season. No one else has more than 2. The next highest is Summerlin, who's I think scored 2 free kicks.
Scored 2 against Chelsea.
Summerlin,
scored a double against Chelsea. That's all she's done.
No, because wasn't it Nilden who got the one that she just smashed?
Oh yeah.
But then obviously Summerlin scored a free kick. So
yeah,
I think it's been Beth England is just carrying them really. But when
That
they
is
played
what's
the
happening.
big teams, they've lost 3-2 to Liverpool, 3-0 to Manchester United, 5-2 to Chelsea, 4-0 to Manchester City, 3-0 to Arsenal.
I think it's just one of those where they've just got a bit worse. They're not bad. They've just got a little bit worse than they were. They're not in a position where they were last season, where they can go and challenge the big
But
sides.
they have beaten the sides they need to, and that is the crucial thing.
That's why they're sixth. They've lost the side. They've lost the bigger sides. They've beaten the little side. They're slap bang in the middle.
Yeah, and
Little
then you've got
sides,
Brighton and
yeah.
Everton Brighton and Liverpool results around, and it's probably quite a fitting season actually. But yeah, 11 points. They'll probably survive just because both England will keep scoring goals, provided they play up front and not on the wing. So they're just not very good defensively.
It's a B.
Yeah,
It's a B. C.
C.
It's a C.
Because the performances have been
They're not exceeding. They're not
really poor.
They have been so bad.
They're not fun to watch at
No.
all. And I know you can't always factor that in because some of the best sides aren't the most fun to watch sometimes because they will set up differently in some games. They want to play a bit more compact sometimes. And defensive football can be very successful. Tottenham haven't played defensive football. Tottenham just played really bad football.
I watched Tottenham for 20 minutes and you can just go, they're going to concede. You just know they're going to concede.
Yeah.
You watch them play. You watch them 20, 30 minutes. Like the Liverpool game shines out to me. You watch the first 10, 20 minutes there, and you just knew that Tottenham were going to concede 3 goals in that game.
Yeah.
And they did.
Let's move on then to our last team, West Ham United. West Ham have scored the most goals in the bottom 12, and they've conceded a fair amount. In the bottom 6, sorry.
That's okay.
It's been a bit
Scored
of
the most goals in the bottom 12.
bottom 6.
Bottom
still.
6.
They've joined with Aston Villa. They've scored 12 each. West Ham attackingly are very good.
What's going on
The
here?
defence is a bit of a mess.
Yes.
But the problem is they can't really change any of the defence because either they're sort of good players who are just underperforming at the moment, or they are bad players they only signed 6 months ago.
And this one, because they scored 5 at Palace and looked really good, and then they were played off the park by Sean Goater. So
And that's Aston Villa too.
I don't know where to. I don't know. I don't know what to say anymore.
Well, I think what you've got to say on the Aston Villa side is Villa are good. That's the thing we're forgetting. You look at the Villa players, and players like Adriana Leon, Rachel Daly, Kenza Dali, they should be winning games.
Yeah.
Yes, it didn't really happen in the first few games. DePaul happened, but Villa are a good side. So there's no shame there. Amongst the sides who are actually in the relegation fight, because Liverpool are in there right now, Villa should be all right, Tottenham should be right. Liverpool, Everton, West Ham, Leicester, Palace, and Villa are still in there for now, but I think they will climb out of that. Those 5 sides, I think West Ham are looking like one of the better sides in that bottom.
I mean, we both predicted them to get relegated. So based on that expectation, they're doing really well.
Well, that's the thing. I think they were in that. They are still in that conversation, but they have performed better in attacking areas than most expected. Defensively, they're still an absolute mess, but they have looked better recently when they've stopped playing a 5-back. Because they're slightly less deep, and against other teams, they just sit deep. And once they conceded, the game plan's over. Then, so they just keep conceding. Now they're slightly more front foot. 4-4-2, just narrow, compact, out of possession. It's working quite nicely. They do pack more of a punch on the counter. I thought the Palace result was huge. I mean, what on earth Palace did there, I don't know. But the way that West Ham fought from 2 goals down after 11 minutes was really impressive there. And to not only get it back to 3-2, but then push on, get 4, get 5, and really dent Crystal Palace's confidence. That, for me, is a huge result for West Ham.
An A?
No, God no. What? An A?
I don't know.
They're 4 points off relegation.
Well, at the end of the video, let's just say that.
3 points off the drop zone. They're not an A.
That's okay.
C.
An A star.
Perfect from West Ham.
C plus.
If you want to be pedantic, we can give them a C plus.
I thought we'd just throw something, a big shout, but that's okay. We'll go for a C plus.
Well, there we go. I'm not going to recount because, in all honesty,
clue.
I don't remember what we said. But you've watched it. I hope you've enjoyed it. A lot of C's, but that's okay. Everyone's just done okay this season.
Well done,
that's what we've learned. Hope you've enjoyed today's video. We'll be back on Sunday with a little preview for the January transfer window. We'll talk about that, and then on Monday our mid-season reviews kick off. So look out for that over the next 2 weeks. We'll be doing a review on every WSL side, looking at what they should do at January, what's happened in the first half of the season, what's going to happen in the second half of the season, all that sort of stuff. So basically what we've done today, but a little bit more fleshed out for every team. So look out for those. Other than that, we're back with streaming in 2 weeks for the Women's FA Cup. Until then, though, you can look out for the videos. But thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.